Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary.
And I'm Eric.
And that means we are talking about the animated series.
Whoa!
Whoa! So the episodes that we're talking about today are Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape, and Lotus and Steel. Now, here's an interesting fact.
Okay.
The order in which I watched these was based on a list from the internet that was like, this is the order in which these were written. I don't have the fancy book that you have, Eric. And so I watched them with Lotus and Steel first.
Oops.
And then Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape started, and I was like,
how are you watching these?
On DVD.
Oh, okay. So we got rid of Disney Plus, so I also had to take my DVDs out of the box that they're in. I got a bookcase coming, so they'll be on a shelf soon.
Oh, very nice.
In case you were worried about that, listeners. But the DVDs, yeah, the Weapon X is on DVD number 3, and Lotus and the Steel. But if you watch them on Disney Plus, they're in the right order.
Okay. Well, that would have made sense.
I believe. I don't have it, so I don't know how they actually... But yes, you definitely went.
It was a weird experience because there's like flashbacks from Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape in Lotus and Steel. So it was like I was having this weird like Inception flashback. It was weird.
You can't trust these lists.
I can't trust my memories. Like Wolverine. Anyway.
So you're just like him.
So now when we talk through this, I'm going to feel a little weird. But the first one, it was actually Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape, which aired on June 11, which you knew. It aired on June 11, 1995, was directed by Larry Houston, written by Stephen Melching and David McDermott. Do you have any fun facts about these episodes, or this particular episode?
Well, Weapon X, Lies, and Videotapes came out in 1995, and that's incorporating the Weapon X storyline, which had come out in 91, and also like the big reveal from I can't remember if it was a 3-part story. It's in the original Wolverine series by Larry Hama. So Wolverine 50 is the one that this episode is really getting, with all the memories and the fake sets, memory sets, and that was 92. So it was only like 3 years after this stuff is revealed, which I guess one of the things I do appreciate about this show, and maybe I've said it before, is that it incorporates revelations about the characters that happen even while the show is in production.
Yeah, that is cool.
I mean, Wolverine 50 came out in 92, which when this is when the series started as well. But they're not like, no, we have a set thing. Like, as new things happen in the comics, they're like, all right, we'll bring that in. Like the One Man's Worth bringing in the Age of Apocalypse designs.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. But yeah, this will be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I've never seen the movie Sex, Lies, and Videotapes, so I can only laugh at the title.
Yeah, that's basically, that's all I got too.
Yeah.
All right, well, here we go with the run through then. So I'm starting with the beginning of the Lotus one again. I gotta move my notes.
Yeah, go to the other page.
Weapon X. My notes start with Weapon X, etc.
Yeah.
So it starts like a memory of Wolverine fighting Sabretooth in a cabin. This feels very classic.
Yeah, it looks like they've both been hanging out there, but Silver Fox is there, and we see her, she's like crawling, and Sabretooth is doing his misogynistic stuff where he's like, can't even protect his woman.
Yeah, and there's like a cake, and he's like put his finger in the cake.
There's a cake because traditionally in the comics, Sabretooth always makes a point to attack Wolverine on his birthday.
Oh, yes, that's okay. That makes sense.
So we're to assume, I guess, that this is Wolverine's birthday this time. He's like, all right, well, I'll take out Silver Fox.
That's really thoughtful of him. He always remembers his birthday.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
But yeah, this is the first time we've seen Silver Fox in any form, like not even a cameo, I think, in this episode. So she's there. We've already talked about the character Silver Fox when we talked about X-Men Origins, Wolverine.
Yes. Oh, good old Silver Fox. I liked her in that movie. Silver Fox is voiced by Shannon Lawson, who also voiced Voltura in the 7th Portal, and she appeared as Dr. Bellows on Mutant X, which I still have not finished.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did like her in that movie. You didn't like? Did I? Maybe I'm lying. I think I like her in the movie.
I don't.
I'm picturing her. Well, whatever. Anyway,
Kayla. Yeah.
So they're having this big fight, and then Wolverine is like freaking out, and then we kind of like zoom out to find out that he's actually dreaming. He's in like, the hospital room in the mansion, and he's like strapped down, and he's like
they strapped him down, and they're saying these nightmares and delusions are getting stronger, and it's like, what?
Yeah, so apparently this has been happening for a while. We don't know how long. And basically everybody's there in the room being like there's Scott, there's Jean, there's other people, Beast, and Xavier is there trying to like pry into his brain.
Yep. And he gets like brain electrocuted.
Yeah,
so whatever's going on is enough to electrocute his brain.
Yes. And so then Wolverine breaks free. He's still like caught in the delusion, I guess. He breaks free and he attacks.
Wolverine starts like throwing his claws around. Beast pulls Xavier out because Xavier has brain electrocuted, and he goes after Cyclops, thinking that he's Sabretooth, but probably he's just using that as an excuse. He's like, oh, I think he's Sabretooth.
Yeah. Oh no.
Here I go.
My brain is making me crazy.
These memories. Jean is like, it's me, Jean. And then Wolverine just books it out of the mansion. Yeah. But he's having these delusions, but he's with it enough to drive as well.
Yeah, it's like a weird. We kind of find out a little more about it, and it feels like it must be kind of like a mix of the memories and sort of a mind control trigger thing, because like he knows where he needs to go. So like on instinct or whatever, he hops in a Jeep and drives.
Well, we find out Jean snoops in his room and goes through his pictures, and there's a picture of Jean that Wolverine had taken Cyclops out of,
which we've seen before, I think.
That was the first season when he was like, Jean. Yeah. It's the meme that you see where Wolverine's in bed just caressing the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we see that, and we see another, I think it's Heather Hudson, because she's a redhead, right?
Okay. Yeah, she sifts through several pictures. I didn't really,
none of them. And there's the picture of him. There's a picture of him in Silver Fox, and on the back of it are coordinates.
Yes.
And Beast knows where those coordinates are, so Jean sends Beast off and says, go after him, without going herself, which seems like maybe you take everybody?
She's got other things to do. She's very busy.
Yeah.
Fighting with Gambit in the kitchen.
The day I need your help in the kitchen! So, yeah, Beast goes off. So Wolverine gets there and he's like, why am I not surprised? Because it's the facility where he got his adamantium. It's the Weapon X facility.
So we see like the cylinder thing with his, like he burst out of.
Mm-hmm.
So we can tell what it is.
And so we go through those flashbacks. Again, this show, having done that one Weapon X episode, is just paying dividends. Because they're just always using that in flashbacks. You know, I forgot to mention, we also saw Nightcrawler.
That's right.
And when he's looking in the mirror, Nightcrawler's like, open your heart, my friend.
Yeah, Nightcrawler that line gets a lot of play in these episodes.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that next episode more, because there's other stuff I wanted to say about that. But yes, he's getting all these visions, and he's seeing Sabretooth. Why did I write different costume? Oh, because then he has the flashback. Again, he goes in there and he has the flashback of the cabin scene, but now Sabretooth is in the Jim Lee costume.
I didn't even pick up on that. That's really interesting.
So I think that's supposed to be hinting at us that something's going on with these memories.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Maybe they didn't realize what they had done.
That's also definitely possible.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I think that would make sense, because they would have had to draw
it's a memory thing.
Yeah.
Yes. And so Sabretooth, in actuality, is there.
Well, but first, Beast finds Wolverine before Sabretooth shows up.
Okay, yeah. I just didn't put that in my... Yeah. But yeah, Sabretooth comes back. And this is the first time we have seen him in person since when?
I mean, I just saw him in Bloodlines. He's in the tag at the end of that, but I guess we haven't seen him with Wolverine in a while.
Yes. So anyway, he's back. And maybe that's one of the reasons I like this episode, because I always do feel like, even though Sabretooth can be a little one note, and, you know, in this comic, he's a bit neutered because it's a cartoon, I always feel like it adds, he brings a presence to the cartoon in the same way Magneto does.
That's true. That's true.
In a way that a certain Silver Samurai does not.
There is, yes.
So there's some nice fight animation when they're attacking each other, even though they can't. Wolverine's like punching him, and then he takes out his claws because it's a cartoon.
You can't just be stabbing all the time. But like both of them, the way that they talk during this fight, it sort of comes across that Sabretooth thinks that Wolverine lured him up here with these like crazy memories.
They both, right. Did you notice the wrong voices moment? It's on the DVD.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, you know, I remember that as a kid happening in other cartoons. I remember being confused in a Ninja Turtles episode, I think, when the wrong voice came out of the wrong turtle.
Uh-huh.
But this is pretty extreme.
Well, because they're just like face to face and just saying each other's
face to face
lines.
And it's one shot of them going back to back, and like the mouth animation isn't wrong.
Right.
Like Wolverine's mouth animation moves for Sabretooth's lines.
But you know what? Speaking of giving the benefit of the doubt, that does kind of work. Like they definitely didn't do it on purpose, but it does work. Because it's like this heightened, like, what is happening?
Yeah. Wolverine calls him, what does he call him? Because Sabretooth calls him a coward. Oh, he calls him a traitor, because a lot of what they're yelling about each other is this mission they had when they were Team X working for Wolverine. You know what? You're right, because Beast shows up because Wolverine has memories we haven't seen before of Wolverine being trained.
Right.
With his headset on to be a better weapon and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see the flashback of Wolverine, Sabretooth, Silver Fox, and Maverick, all members of Team X. And they're on some mission. Omega Red is there, which I guess is at one point in one of the Omega Red episodes, the first one, Wolverine said he wasted some buddies of mine in regards to Sabretooth when we first met him. He's like, he did it just for fun. But I guess this is what he's alluding to.
Yeah, it doesn't super fit the description, but
yeah,
I'll allow it.
But also the memory, we find out the memories are so maybe there's that. But they abandon ship and Sabretooth blows the door shut so that Maverick and Silver Fox are left behind to deal with Omega Red themselves. And Wolverine's like, you SOB! But then Silver Fox and Maverick show up and they're alive.
They're alive! That was a pretty good moment because it was like right there with the memory of them dying. And it's like,
so it's revealed that Silver Fox was also having these issues, and like all of them were. They were all having these memory issues. And so Silver Fox was the one who sent the picture to Wolverine with the coordinates because she wanted to lure him there because because of the door. So
right. Because apparently I don't know if she started having the memories first or if she just like got her stuff together faster than the rest of them, but she has already been up here at the facility trying to figure things out.
So they all apparently have issues. We don't see Maverick's memories, but he's having the same brain electricity thing happening around him. But we see Sabretooth's memory, which is his dad beating him in the basement.
Yep, good times.
Which is a pretty dark origin story to put in cartoons.
Yeah.
I feel like with like Rogue, it's comparable to Rogue's flashbacks when she's like, Daddy, no! Because we don't see, like, they don't allude to him hitting her, but she is like on the corner in the floor, which I assume means he did hit her.
Yeah, and he's like all looming up there with his fists and being all...
So Sabretooth is this is like a child Sabretooth. And he's like, I'll be good, and...
It's very sad.
And Sabretooth, we cut to Sabretooth being like, I'll be good.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's like kind of hyper religious with the dad. He's like, you're evil, and I know how to beat the evil out of people or whatever.
Yeah. that's an origin that's kind of stuck with Sabretooth, that he was in a basement. His dad thought he was evil and beat him up in the base, kept him chained, but then he broke out and he killed his whole family.
Just truly beautiful.
So the reason Silver Fox had everybody come up is because there's a door, and it can only be opened if all 4 of them put their hands on the DNA scanner.
Yeah.
And Beast is, he's like, why would, if they wanted to keep you out, why would they do that?
Yeah. He's like, this is clearly
with
a trap.
A door that only you could open. And Wolverine's like, well, I gotta know.
Yeah.
Beast, how do you feel about Beast being the X-Men that they send on this trip?
I don't know why they sent him. I think he did a good job of being like support for Wolverine and like helping him along. And he's kind of like physically tough enough that I feel like he can hold his own and like when things go down later on and stuff. So I
guess he's here because he accesses the tapes, and he shows the tapes of their memory. We see Wolverine break out again, and we realize that we find out that Sabretooth was next in line to get the adamantium.
Yeah, see, I thought this was really interesting, which you've read all of this stuff. I avoid Wolverine stuff like the plague, so I don't have all like the fine details. But I thought it was really interesting that their whole thing is that the 4 of them were being used, like manipulating their memories and all this stuff so that they could be assassins or something. And then out of this group, the scientists just discovered, they were just like, oh, these 2 have some weird genetic healing thing. Well, maybe this scientist over here who's been talking about adamantium, maybe we should try that with them. And I thought that was interesting that like that was just sort of like a secondary thing rather than like they captured him to do that.
Yeah, and Sabretooth is upset because he didn't get the adamantium.
Yeah.
And we see that when Wolverine breaks out, all the other 3 are on like unconscious on their manipulation beds or whatever. And then they break out and they all escape at the same time but separately. They all just run away.
Which was a cool thing too, because it was a scene that we've seen 100 times in flashbacks of Wolverine escaping and everything exploding. And this is the first time that we see like what's happening inside while that's happening.
Yeah. And they open the door and it turns out it's the professor character from the Weapon X that we've seen before.
He says that if they've shown up, it means that their
memory conditioning and everything has failed.
Yeah. And so, it must have just been like a fail safe that like, if that happened, they would be brought back by their memories,
so,
I guess.
Obviously, he meant for them to be captured and then reprogrammed, but because everything's gone, it's just the weapon system that's online. And so Talos shows up.
Yeah, it's like a robot comes up out of the floor.
In the comics, it's Shiva. In the show, it's Talos. It's the same robot, but it's there to capture them. So if the Weapon X facility was still up and running, they would go back to the memory programming. So the professor explained that all the memory stuff is there to better control them.
Yeah, it was like they flooded them with crazy memories to like break down.
Also, use those false memories implemented with their real memories.
Yeah, like they used real memories and like morphed them.
Yes.
So that there's like a grain of truth in all of them. But like the point was to traumatize them.
Yes, and keep them stuck with them. So then it just kind of devolves into a fight with the Talos robot, and they defeat it.
And Silver Fox kind of takes point on the whole thing. She's like, you go over there and you do this. And
yeah, she's an intense character in this episode. Sabretooth really goes after the robot because he realizes the voice is the same voice of his father in his flashback.
Oh, I didn't realize that was why he made that connection.
Yeah, it's the same voice.
Oh, my word.
And so they stop him, but then they are all unconscious.
Well, because they defeat the robot. But then Sabretooth is holding the head of the robot, and the robot is like, this robot failed. So now we're going to start this other protocol, and it knocks all 4 of them out.
Yep.
And then there's going to be another one robot. So while that's happening, Beast is like, just like,
Yep.
I don't know where he gets this truck, but he backs a pickup
It's
truck.
Wolverine's truck. He also throws grenades at the second Talos robot.
And
Puts
you
them
sort of
all in the
wonder
truck.
why he didn't do that to begin with, because it's very effective.
He takes the truck, he drives them all out with this cool animation where it's just smashing through fake wall after fake wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're out.
Yeah, which I thought was a cool use of Beast. Like they're all knocked out, and he just like picks each of them up individually and puts them in the truck, and then drives away.
He's I guess
situation
for all the like the physicality that you need, like only Rogue would be the only other X-Men that would fit at the end of this episode when they're all unconscious, because you'd be like, well, Gambit can't lift them up,
right? But she wouldn't have had like all the stuff that Beast did with, researching the scientist
he wouldn't
stuff
be on the
and
computers.
everything. And so, yeah, I think he was a good choice.
So they all leave. Maverick says, good to see you. Like, he's just very jovial about the whole experience.
Nice seeing you guys again. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
What's his accent? Because it's insane.
In the comics, he's German.
Okay.
But I kind of thought at times he sounded very French.
Sometimes, yeah, I got some that was like maybe like a racist Indian
oh no
accent, and then sometimes he sounded kind of like a hayseed type person, like kind of like a southern.
No, I thought he sounded more French than German. But
I think
in the comics, it should be German.
A bad accent with no consistency.
Well, I wonder if, because all the voice actors are I'm pretty sure all the voice actors are Canadian. I wonder if they just have somebody who's more, they say do German and he does more French Canadian than German,
Yeah, that could be. That makes sense.
Anyway, he leaves. Silver Fox is there, and Wolverine's trying to tell her, like, look, I know our memories are messed up, but what we had was real. It has to be real. And he says, in the memory, I wrote our names on the cabin, but that wasn't on the set, which means I really did it. And she's like, maybe we had something, but it doesn't matter anymore. That was a different life. And she leaves, and we realize she's for Hydra.
Oh, I did not make that connection.
In the comics, she is, but yeah, on her little flying ship she goes away in, it has the Hydra symbol on the...
I didn't even see that. Wow.
And Sabretooth just leaves. He doesn't stick around.
We never see him. He's just like gone.
Yeah, and Wolverine says he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't care where he is, but he probably just doesn't want to fight right now after all of that.
Well, he does. He cops to him having saved him at some point, which feels kind of momentous for him to acknowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Beast, kind of, Wolverine's like, what are my memories? And Beast gives him this speech about how, like, the X-Men are your family, and that's real.
Yeah. Well, I like it because he's like, I know that those are real memories. Like, I can verify for you because I've been there. I thought that was cool because, like, everything else is just inside his head. And like, who knows? But he has like an outside person who can be like, yep, you got stuff. People who care about you.
So they leave, and the camera pans over to a tree that says Logan and Silver Fox, revealing that the feelings had been real at some point.
Or I see you're being an optimist. I thought that was suggesting that, like, he thought that it wasn't part of the fake memories, but it could have been because it was written on the tree. Like, it was right there with all of the other stuff. So, like, it still could have been.
Well, I guess because it wasn't on the sets. And, like, is the thing. I guess I interpret it very much as, like, see, isn't this sad? They did have some types of feelings, but they're gone. This one memory is real, but he'll never know.
He'll never know. Let's talk about the sets, because I thought that was really cool. And I remember this episode, but I've never really incorporated that element into my, like, Wolverine mythos. Like, I just didn't make that connection. And I thought that was really, really interesting for them to just walk in and find this, like, whole big area full of sets of them just, like, recreating and falsifying memories so that they truly cannot trust anything that they remember. I thought that was so crazy.
Yeah, it's funny that you stay. I didn't know you stay away from Wolverine stuff the
I've
way you
just
do.
I've always had the thing with Wolverine because he's so popular and like
Okay.
it feels like he steals the spotlight from the people that I
Yeah,
am interested
yeah.
in. So I'm
Rogue
always
is
just like,
definitely
oh,
Rogue is definitely a C-list character. Hilary.
thanks.
Gambit is such
I'm
a
just saying.
crazy B-side pick.
Fine. If you look for X-Men t-shirts, you're gonna have like 17 with Wolverine for any one with any other character.
Well, but like I said, the set stuff comes from Larry Hama's comic run, and that was when you read Chris Claremont X-Men issues, the idea seems to be that Wolverine just has a bunch of memories, and he's got some stuff that has happened. A lot of it is more like he alludes to things more than he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like the stuff Chris Claremont does with Department H, with Alpha Flight, kind of is like, oh, he's got this past, and the stuff he does with the Hudsons and Lady Deathstrike, but it never really seems like Claremont is writing him like, oh, he just doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
like his memories are all mixed up.
When does it come in that he's like, because there's stuff about him not being able to remember. Like there's like he has like his crazy past, and then at some point they bring in stuff about maybe they've blocked his memory. But I haven't seen anything about like falsifying memories.
It's in the Wolverine solo series, and I think it really is just once other people start working with Wolverine who aren't Claremont. It becomes a thing. So, like that reveal that Larry Hama did with like, you can't trust the memories, and there were Black Ops. It's really a combination of. So I guess in a big way, it's Weapon X as well is the big thing that Barry Windsor Smith did. That crazy comic where we see all these things that happen with Wolverine, and we don't know what is real and what's not because that's where memory implants come in. So, I was saying Larry Hama, but both of those. So really the 90s is where this happens, and the whole false memory implants thing was so much a part of Wolverine for so long.
It's cool. I like it.
And it's something that X-Men Origins Wolverine just didn't bother with.
Yeah.
Which is annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked this episode.
Yeah, I did too. It was interesting. It was a little like a smidge faster pace than was comfortable for me, but
it
overall,
is very quick because it's trying to cram in so much in 22 minutes.
But I did enjoy. I thought it was like well done, and I liked how Beast kind of paced things out a little bit because like they would all be really heightened and intense, and then Beast would have like some guys, but like here's some evidence and stuff, which was I thought it was good.
I think maybe the faster pace works for it sometimes because it adds to the how chaotic all this memory stuff is. Like we're getting everything all at once, almost like the characters are getting everything all at once, and it's just like a lot to be dealing with. I feel like I've gone back and forth on this episode. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, that's great. And then maybe after I saw it again, I was like, that was fine. But watching it again, I'm like, yeah, this is the stuff I like when it comes to Wolverine.
It was cool.
It's the stuff that was still very prominent when I was getting into comics. And it was the stuff that was done away with pretty soon after, like in whenever House of M happened,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's harder. Like it's more interesting, but it's harder to maintain. Like if you can just go simply with he can't remember stuff. That's a lot easier to write a story that's just simple and straightforward rather than because it's just more complex and interesting, but harder to maintain something that's falsified memories and what do we trust and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because of comic books, because they never end, that whole false memories thing did have an expiration date.
Yeah.
It's just the stuff they did afterwards is the issue. It's not necessarily the that they did end it. It's how they ended it and what they did afterwards, I think, is the issue.
So now we can go into the next episode, which is not the episode that came first, as I watched it.
Again, like you said, on theme for the previous episode, Hilary's memory is all mixed up. She doesn't know what's real.
What's going on? So this is Lotus and Steel, originally aired February 3rd, 1996, which is quite later than the previous episode.
Yep, because they are out of order. And the DVDs have the air date order, which means they're a mess.
At least this is the right, order. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't put them,
you would watch Weapon X
I watched them. Larry Houston directed it, written by Ted Peterson and Francis Moss.
Okay. We open with Wolverine being very quiet and subdued while talking to Professor like a therapy session.
Yeah, it's very therapy. Like, they're both sitting in a darkened office. And the first line is Xavier saying, "What is it you fear?" Which is very therapy.
Maybe it's the voice actor. He's good at some very specific things when it comes to Wolverine.
He's the best there is at what he does.
But when you have these very quiet, emotional moments, I feel like that voice actor just doesn't hit it.
Yeah, it could definitely be worse. It's enough that it's noticeable. It draws your attention more than you would want.
When he's talking, he's like, I don't know. I'm not feeling at peace right now. There's just stuff that doesn't land there. And I don't know if it's the actual voice, if it's the voice actor. It just comes across as kind of strange in these scenes.
Well, yeah, he's got a very stylized voice. It's supposed to be so animalistic. And that just doesn't really super work for sincerity. But watching these out of order.
Yeah, that screwed you up.
Was interesting because when he's talking about this, and Xavier walks him through things, he's like, is it the Proteus thing? He's like, no, I dealt with that. And then he's like, is it Weapon X? Is it Jean? Is it Sabretooth? No, it's not any of those things. And so when I was watching it initially, I was trying to figure out what exactly, why is he even talking to Xavier? What's been happening leading into this? And then when I realized I'd watched them out of order, I was like, oh, okay. So Weapon X is going to explain to me what he's talking about. And I don't super feel like it does. I don't really still understand, what exactly is he talking about?
So, yes, Xavier asked him to go through it all. He says, Proteus, we see the flashbacks of what Proteus did. Weapon X, we see the flashbacks of what he just learned in Weapon X lies and videotapes. The Wolverine, he says, Jean, no, he's happy for her. He loves her enough for that. He says, we see the Nightcrawler episode again. Mm-hmm. But Wolverine says the issue is he just doesn't care anymore because we find out just recently in a flashback.
Which we see, which I think.
No, we didn't see because that just happened.
This morning or whatever.
Right, this morning. And so what happened was somebody cut off Wolverine. He jumps out of the car, tears off the door, and is going to cut him up. And Jubilee stops him and he throws Jubilee off. And so what's upsetting Wolverine here is that this person cutting him off triggered him in such a way that he was ready to kill this kid, and that he was even about to hurt Jubilee. And in that moment, he didn't even care about this stuff. There's nothing in there. And he's saying, no, Proteus is fine. The Weapon X stuff is fine. Wolverine, Jean is fine. But I think what we're taking away is, so much has happened to him that he's just dead inside right now. And he says to him, he was going to hurt Jubilee. He doesn't even care if he hurts the X-Men. He says even animals care about each other. And so he's feeling less than even a beast right now.
Yeah.
What is he? He's not human. He's not an animal. He's just a weapon.
I guess I was looking for like a trigger, but I guess you're right. Like it could just be an accumulation of everything.
I think that's what it is. Especially when you watch them in order. This is happening right after Weapon X Lies and Videotape. I think he's just like, if he could have been making a sandwich and somebody sneezed and his claws would have popped out. And you know, we've said, and I've definitely said on the Proteus episode and the Nightcrawler episode, that the issue with the show no longer being
Serialized?
Serialized, yes. When it's less serialized and it's more episodic, that Proteus stuff and that Nightcrawler episode, they're a little less effective because we know nothing's going to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about all this stuff and that it is actually being dealt with.
Yeah, it was nice to see those things.
It kind of... I don't think Proteus is a better episode because of it, but I do want to give them credit for still working in the continuity.
Yeah.
In ways that work towards what this character is going through. Unfortunately, this episode kind of stinks, but Wolverine goes on, he says, you know, like, I'm leaving the X-Men, and Xavier's like, oh, and he says, I'm going to the one place where I think that might be where I might be able to find what I'm looking for. I'm going to Japan.
He's going to Japan.
Wolverine loves Japan.
He loves Japan. It's the one place where he found peace, I guess?
Wolverine is the ultimate weeaboo. That's what Weapon X turned him into. He's the best there is at what he does, and what he does is be a weeaboo.
That's what he does. But he doesn't just go to Japan. Like, we're not flying into Tokyo or something. He shows up at a monastery. Buddhist, I guess, maybe?
That's the thing with this show. Like, we go to these places, and it's like, is this today, or did Wolverine just travel back in time to feudal Japan?
Yeah, it's a little, yeah.
This episode is really, it's still like, oh, Seven Samurai is still a thing, except there's motorcycles. And it's like,
I mean,
really?
Again, I don't really know what rural Japan is like.
I
guess. Does feel pretty backward. Like, it's a fishing village, which presumably there are some that exist. But yeah, it's a very like kind of backward feeling.
Yeah,
vibe.
I mean, because they're like, you owe us money. It's like, is this stuff maybe it is. I doubt that it is
we can't assert.
A Kurosawa level. But it is kind of crazy to me that they're still doing like, oh, we're the bandits and you owe us money.
Well,
and
I mean,
Wolverine's like, I know, we'll set up a Seventh Samurai like trap in 1995. Yes.
But like Wolverine says, it's just a protection racket. Like, that's not something that's gone away.
Yeah.
You know, it's a group, it's a gang that's like, give us money and we won't destroy your village. And then they don't give them money, so they destroy their village.
I guess it always feels like, and it's not really it's comics as well. Like, just, if you want to deal with the country, deal with it in its modernity. Stop trying to like turn it back. Be like, oh no, it's modern, but it's Japan.
But it's so quaint, Eric. It's so quaint.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes to a monastery because apparently he's been here before. And they're building the temple because I guess it needs rebuilding. I don't know why. But they're rebuilding the temple and they're using really old tools and stuff because it's just the process and we're monks. And Wolverine decides he's going to help them rebuild this temple. And he's going to find peace.
Yep. And we realize Silver Samurai is there. And he's like, hey, you better not be causing me trouble. And Wolverine's like, I don't want any trouble. So they both part.
Yeah. Wolverine the whole time is very much kind of fighting his instinct for any amount of violence.
Yes.
Like he seems to be thinking that what he needs to do is just not be any version of himself that he recognizes.
And I guess my other issue with this episode is that it's basically just that season 1 episode where Wolverine goes off to the Canadian wilderness, joins that other fishing village.
Yep.
And then Sabretooth shows up and Wolverine's like, is there no peace for me?
Wolverine,
and then he decides he has to fight.
Fishing villages.
But like everything about it, from like the lesson he learns, the setting is different, but the structure's the same. so we've already done this, and I guess I feel like if you want to deal with all like his trauma that he's been dealing with recently, there needs to be something else.
Yeah. It's kind
I
of
don't know.
like a Lost scenario where they're answering, like they're creating a new question for him to answer rather than answering the question that was like organically come to. Because you're right, they don't deal with any of his trauma. It's just
Yeah.
back to the same old question of am I an animal? Can I
Yeah,
use
that's the
violence
thing.
that's
It's
still
the
worth something?
it's the same question he had in season 1 because that was serialized. And so we're going back and forth between other storylines at the time as well. And because that episode had Sabretooth and this episode just has Silver Samurai, there's also just weight that's not there. Because, okay, you put Wolverine in Japan, where in the comics he has a lot of history, but you put him here and it just feels like nothing. Like,
Yeah.
who are these people that he's helping build a temple? That's it. Silver Samurai in this cartoon has no connection with them, so that's nothing. And then the fighting just turns into, like I said, like a supposed to be a modern day Seven Samurai, but it's very uninteresting. And then Wolverine fights the Silver Samurai, and the only thing he realizes is like, I know if I backflip, and
Yeah,
because
I know.
he says, use your head for once, Logan. It's like, oh, is that what this episode was about? That he's not using his head
Yeah.
in a fight?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he mentions his berserker stuff at the beginning of the episode, so maybe it's like against that. But like he's known to be like a skilled fighter. So it doesn't really make
Yes.
sense that like he needs to fight against his instincts to
Yeah.
know that he should get out of the way.
Is that what he's dealing with? Like, is that what the writers thought was the main point? Like, because he does mention, you said it when Xavier, he says, like, the berserker thing used to
Mhm.
be a thing, and now it's a real big problem. And so here he says, use your, but there's no, like, why in this one moment?
Right.
Is it just he needed like when he said he quit the X-Men, did all he really need was 2 days building a temple, like doing hard labor
Yep.
to realize?
Well, I will say that like the kinds of messaging that he gets from the people around him do seem legitimately helpful. Like the head monk and the woman who apparently only in flashbacks he is in love with. But the kinds of things that they say to him about like how we all have our own way of
Yeah,
being useful or of fighting back or whatever, and like you just need to find your specific purpose. And like the monk is like, we are building this temple and thanks for helping us, I guess, but like you're not a builder. Like you protect people. Like I think that there are things in the people that he talks to that are useful. But the way that he seems to kind of take them in doesn't succeed quite as much. But I think I get what they're going for. 'Cause I
yeah,
think it's hard to do something this contemplative and like let's find the real meaning of Wolverine's life. It's hard to find a way that's like, okay, so what you need is to fight and attack people. Like we need to find a way for that to be the meaningful choice that Wolverine makes. And I think
yeah,
that their whole like you're not an attacker, you're a defender kind of works.
yeah. I wish they had been a little bit more smoother in this
Yeah.
episode.
It definitely feels incredibly standalone. Like, it doesn't really relate to any of his character development to this point.
Right. And it doesn't really feel like he necessarily takes part in the defense of this village
Yeah,
outside of the quick Silver Samurai
just
fight,
at the end, yeah.
which is so funny when they defeat him because he just leaves like head down, arms to his
Just walks
side.
away, he's like, "Oh," and Wolverine's like, "You stood up to him, so he's not gonna come back," and I'm like, "Is that how it works? I don't know if
Yeah.
that's" he has a gang.
Oh, but also Jubilee gets in a jet and goes to find Wolverine.
She
And
knows
like
how to fly to Japan.
we never see her except for one point where she's like, "Where is Wolf Logan? Big hair, claws."
She does the
And
slow
then
talk.
we see her again when she's like, "Oh, everybody's fighting. Logan must be here."
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess I thought there'd be more because she says, "I came to get you because you left." kind of thought I had something to do with it.
Yeah, which was not clear that she thought that until she said those words.
Right, because of the whole road incident. I don't know how she thought that would have been her fault, but
I mean, like, it's a classic, the
thing.
kid thinks that it's their fault that the guy they love moves away. But yeah, it did not play that way. She acts like she's coming to save him.
Yeah, and I thought maybe this episode was going the way of that Wolverine and Kitty Pryde miniseries, but it didn't. So I don't know. So Jubilee feels kind of superfluous in it, but she does. The scene when they're leaving is pretty funny, where she's like asking him 100 questions, and you hear her say, "And who's the babe?"
Yeah. Yeah, they're cute. I think they wanted to have someone come and bring him home.
Yeah.
Rather than him just being like, "Yeah, I figured it out," and then going back.
Yeah. But I guess they could have done more with that.
Yeah. Well, when she came in and like saved the villagers from some of the gang members, I was like, "Oh, cool. Okay, so she's going to like fight." But that never happened.
No. Anyway, I don't love this episode at all.
I didn't hate it. I feel like maybe watching them out of order was good for my viewing experience of this, because I didn't have all of the trauma dumping from Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape, and to be like, why aren't they talking about that? But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty, standalone-y kind of.
Yeah, it feels very generic. Like that episode where Cyclops had to help that village like an old Western. It just kind of feels like that. Like, it's just a whatever story with this character. And I still don't really understand how Wolverine in this episode comes out the other end being like, I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's not solving any of the problems that he has uncovered recently.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways you could take that to go that like lesson, like, okay, but the Defender one is the most, I mean, there's 2 Wolverine movies that both end with the same message.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a fair. I wasn't looking forward to this episode, and I remembered why while watching it. I just feel like the Silver Samurai is a non-character in this, and that really doesn't help.
He behaves very much just like a simple head of a gang, and like it's just kind of weird that he's also this like crazy intense mutant. Like he could have just been some dude.
Yeah.
Silver Samurai is voiced by Dennis Akiyama, who also voiced the Watcher Prime in The Silver Surfer and Malachite in Sailor Moon, and I think he's a villain. I think Malachite is a villain in Sailor Moon.
Okay.
I started watching Sailor Moon again. I watched Sailor Moon with my sister when we were like 12 or something.
Yeah.
And apparently there's a remake of it. Like it's still animated and everything, but it's like a super shortened remake of it.
Okay.
And my husband has decided that we're going to watch it. And so I've watched the first several episodes. And, it's Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Hey,
it's funny though, because, you know that thing that people are doing now where they're like really literally translating things from Japanese for some reason I don't understand. Well, they're doing that with the dialogue.
They did that to the version of Neon Genesis Evangelion that's on Netflix. Got a updated dub, and they've changed some stuff.
It's so weird because like the transformations that like the Sailor Guardians do sound so dopey. They're just so ridiculous. And it's just, I don't understand why.
Yeah.
That was a choice that they made. They sound so stupid. And I'm sure it sounds cool in Japanese, but it doesn't sound cool in English. You have to make the adjustment. Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Hilary, correct me if I'm wrong, but the next episode we're doing is covering the 4-part.
Yes.
Beyond Good and Evil.
Beyond Good and Evil. 4 whole parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing next time. I do not remember anything about this.
So we'll talk about it then, but that 4-parter was originally supposed to be the whole series ender. And then they got renewed for an extra couple episodes. And
some lame duck episodes.
So yeah, when you watch these 4 episodes, watch them as if this show was never going to come back.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's exciting. Okay. Well, that's what we'll be doing next time then.
Yay!
Yay! Okay. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include This Endorian Life, 90s Music Got Me Like, and 9021 Here We Go. Follow us on Facebook and be sure to follow the network on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads for info on all our shows. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.